Hey guys, Patrick here with SE Knives, Reynolds Venturing Training. Today Shane and I are going to answer some questions that came up during our last video we did where we broke an S35B and SE3.
So what we decided to do is to kind of do a little bit of side-by-side comparison, starting with our general knife task, and then we're going to gradually get maybe a little bit more unreasonable. We break it, we break it. If we don't, we don't. But this is in response to a lot of questions that we had. So we're going to run it through some tests and show you guys the results.
Keeps catching. So far we've done the same test with both of them, just checking edge retention. We cut some green wood, some small stuff. We did a little cross-grain batoning. Then we started cutting this thick manila rope. It's very rough on the edge, and about halfway through is when I first started noticing the S35VN, the edge seemed to be hanging in there better. It was still performing well. Then we stabbed it into a bucket of sand over and over and over again. That's also going to be real rough on the edge. Playing around doing the feather sticks, the wood's a little wet, so it didn't do great, but I could still tell a difference between, the two steels. The edge on the S35VN still seems to be, hanging in there better than 1095. So we're going to push a little harder with it and just see what else happens.
Patrick, in the last video, we kind of made a distinction between what we would consider normal batoning or just kind of regular knife task versus getting kind of more into the axe category. Yeah. How would you qualify this that we just done?
The size I just batoned, I would consider normal batoning. Just getting stuff ready to get a fire going. S35VN should be able to handle it fine. Anything bigger or thicker than that or full of knots and twists, you may run into problems.
All right. So what type of diameter were these? What are we talking about right now?
This was roughly wrist thick. Okay. Roughly a wrist thick piece.
We had about an inch sticking out on the blade.
Yeah, just big enough to where you could still use the knife to get through it and be able to baton on the other side.
Okay. So should we do maybe some unreasonable batoning next?
We're going to take it further and see what happens.
All right.
Just to show exactly what I was doing with it when it broke the last time, I had started it down into the wood and decided, you know what, that's enough batoning. Tried to pull it out, tried to, you know, just wrench it out, it wouldn't come out. So what I did was hold the knife by the handle in line with the blade and just hit it against the stump like that to work it out. And I hit it once and I hit it again, and that's when it broke.
So we're back, and as you can see, this time Patrick did not break it. But Patrick, let's just talk about, kind of recap the test and recap your thoughts on the S35 versus the 1095.
Okay, to start off, we tested the overall sharpness of both. Then we cut some green stuff, just some common tasks you might use a knife this size for around camp. Then we started cutting several sections of thick manila rope, which is real rough on the edge. The S35V seemed to retain its edge better and was, you know, performing better, you know, towards the end of that test. Then we stabbed it into a bucket of sand, about 20 times each, and just to see how it would do. And then we, you know, tested the sharpness, and then got into some batoning and went heavier and heavier and heavier with it, and it held up.
So earlier we talked about kind of what we consider to be general knife tasks, and we talked about that in that light batoning episode. As we got into this oak, could you tell any difference in the performance of the two?
I really couldn't. Both were, you know, handling fine, and we went thicker and went fairly thick with the last piece we did with the S35V. Anything you're having to work that hard to baton through, you either need to find some smaller wood or get a better, you know, a different tool, get the right tool for the job.
Okay, and so for us, we're not die-hard batoners, as you might say, but it is a skill that's good to have, and it's also kind of how to expand the use of a fixed blade knife if you didn't have the other tools and you're in a critical situation where you had to get a fire started.
Yeah, just how to get by with it, that's all you had.
Okay, so when we filmed this the last time, we both kind of filmed this with a heavy heart a little bit, if we're being really honest. We hate to have one of our knives break. Where are you kind of on where S35 fits in a lineup now versus where you were at the end of the first test?
It still all just comes down to personal preference. If you don't plan on beating your knife through wood, then, you know, you'll be fine with it. Holds its edge well, doesn't corrode like 1095 does. You know, for field dressing, game, anything like that, just it should be fine with it. Me personally, I love 1095. It's what I'm most familiar with, and that's what I'm going to stick with.
As a game knife, where do you think S35?
I think it'd be excellent for that, because you're not going to be, you know, doing anything that could be considered borderline abuse.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, look, guys, thank you for following us. We appreciate all the comments. If you like always, if you have questions or comments, hit us up down below, and we'll do our best to answer them all as honestly and as quickly as possible. Once again, sign us out.
Be sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks, guys.